Now wait. Before you jump into any of your conclusions, this is not a video that says that God does not exist and completely atheist in nature. But here, we are just questioning on how the existence of God and the universe came upon with the help of one of India's most ancient yet illuminating philosophies named Sankhya. How can the God whom we define to be unchanging? This is something that we all can agree upon, right? God is constant, God is unchanging, God is a force, God is a power. So how can something unchanging be the cause of an ever-changing universe? Do you have an answer for that? Well, I personally do not have an answer for that after reading that thing from the Sankhya philosophy. So that is the same way I'm going to tell you another shocking thing which you would read as we go along in the Bhagavad Gita. In a particular verse, Krishna himself says that he is not God. He just seems to be a person who's little above the normal human intellect. So what does that mean? Have we created God? Or maybe have we created God as per our fears and our fears to face the situation perhaps? That could be one of the main reasons. Because in Sankhya theory, as it says, that our karma is what binds our opportunities or our threats, or sometimes it could be our hardships that we face in life. Now we may wonder that we prayed to God for one whole day and it helped me greatly the next day. Is it so? Now, if according to your theory, if God does help you, then doesn't God become a little bit who is satisfying a human desire? Or does God become someone who is egoistic in nature? Because in this world, if there is no suffering, then it means that the God is egoistic, where he wanted his creation to be as good as gold. But however, God is being portrayed, the God is being defined as somebody who has removed himself away from all sorts of desires and human emotions that we have. So how can such a person be the cause of such chaos in this universe? So thereby, God is nothing but a creator and an observer of the universe. All things that we face, as I said, it could be good or it could be bad, is all due to our personal karma, and we do not need a keen observer in the name of God, is what the Sankhya theory says. Now this might be pretty overwhelming, and also I just want to clear this before I go into the next part of the video, is the Sankhya theory does not say that you should not believe in God. Oh no, that seems to be a standard misconception, because philosophy is actually a little above that. Philosophy doesn't force you into anything, but rather philosophy questions you into thinking about the existence of God. Now, if you believe in God, the Sankhya theory wants to ask you only one question, and I repeat it for the second time in this very video. How can a God that you call it to be unchanging and supreme be the cause of an ever-changing world? Now, in Sankhya, there is a general consensus that people have that it says that God does not exist and everything that pertains to God is a lie. But however, there is much more to it than what just meets the eye. Now, when we take a look at God, what is the definition of God? Something that is more powerful than us, if that makes some sort of sense, or something that we bow down to? But actually, in the Sankhya theory, the main thing that we bow down to God is because we worship what we fear. Don't you agree? Let me give you a small example for that. Whenever we have a desire, why do we have a desire? We always have desires and set goals which we cannot achieve. And that is why we sometimes tend to have some lofty expectations that we ourselves cannot meet. And that is the same way on how sometimes we prostrate before God. We are not ready to face the situation, so we put the blame or we put the work onto something external and call it God. And I'm not saying this. This is the interpretation of Sankhya philosophy. Now here Sankhya does not simply say something that atheists say out there by saying God does not exist, God is just a myth, God is just a lie. Oh no. Sankhya says a scientific explanation about the distinction between supreme and God. Now, this is a mistake that a lot of us make. We assume that Supreme and God are same. It was many years ago, but however, today our definition of God has become way too redundant for us to call God as Supreme. Now, let me give you the exact detail of what the Sankhya philosophy says. Now, Sankhya philosophy and all other ancient philosophies always agree on the fact that there is a Supreme that exists in this very universe. But however, there is a small catch. Now, all our actions in life are bound by something that you would have heard known as karma. Karma is nothing but our day-to-day activities in life. And according to ancient Indian philosophy, there are only two central things that exist in this universe, and that is nature and secondly consciousness. Now, the consciousness is what the Sankhya theory calls as Purusha, the Bhagavad Gita calls as Atman, and many other definitions for the soul in various other Indian philosophies. Now, if we take a look at the soul and that of nature, there are a lot of distinct properties that each one of these have. Now, in the Sankhya theory, it always says that nature is the origin of the universe and not God. And that is also agreed upon in the Vedas. There is a huge testimony for what this particular theory in Sankhya says in the Vedas too. And this is known as the Brahman in the Upanishads. And the Brahman and Atman are very different as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita as well. Because the Atman, which is known as the soul, is the individual consciousness that is present in each and every one of us. And there is a Supreme. All ancient Indian philosophy agrees with that there is a Supreme. It is not going to be willy-nilly that the world created itself upon its own and the universe existed all of a sudden. There is a Supreme, there is a force, there is something that is beyond all of us that created everything. But however, to say that God plays a role in all our decision makings and activities that happen in our life seems a little redundant. Because the main reason why it is because the nature is something that is very distinct from the plane of where the Supreme originates from and where the Supreme exists. To go to that plane, a person or an entity should not have any desires, any emotions. By any emotions, I mean the Supreme does not care about the good, neither does it care about the bad. And that is the same thing that Krishna says on the battlefield to Arjuna as well. He says that he's just a common man who seems to be a little above the human intellect. Now, this might be shocking to a lot. Some people might even get offended by this. But as I've again repeatedly been saying, I'm not imposing this particular thought. Rather, through this philosophy, I'm just trying to make you think about another possibility of the existence of this particular universe. Now, for this, the Sankhya says scientifically why we believe in God. Why we believe in a God that is certainly non-existent and for which there are 24 cosmic principles that make us fall in that category. And the very first thing is nature itself. It is in our nature that we view God during all our problems, where we want to divert the situation away to something and put the blame on it. And secondly, we have something in Sanskrit known as Mahat, which is the basic principle upon which the entire universe itself was built, and it is derived directly from nature itself. Now, this principle is something that we need first in order to go to the next plane. This perfect example would be someone like Arjuna, who is almost a finished product, but there is some little bit fine tuning needed for that particular man for him to reach his maximum potential. And that fine tuning is what Krishna is present on the battlefield for. Now, the third thing is something that I have spoken in this very video right here, known as Buddha Yoga. Buddha Yoga is nothing but our human intellect. You see, this is the intellect that discriminates the difference between illusion and reality. Without activating this intelligence, we would be simply the normal people in this universe. And oh no, the Sankhya theory by normal does not talk about the materialistic highs and lows of a person, but highs and lows in terms of wisdom. And wisdom that is gained through the knowledge of eternal truth. And that is what this intellect is all about. And as I said in my earlier videos and throughout this Bhagavad Gita series, this wisdom cannot be attained, but it has to be realized from within. The fourth principle. This is one of the main reasons why we do the things that we do in the day and age that we are living in. Now, when we take a look at the Hindu yugas in life, we talk about the four major yugas. Firstly, we talk about the Satya Yuga. Secondly, we talk about the Treta Yuga. Thirdly, we talk about the Dwapar Yuga. And fourth, well, we talk about the Kali Yuga. And needless to say, one of the worst periods for a human being to live. And during this period is what this principle is ever so prevalent and predominant, more importantly. Now, this is known as ego. This ego consciousness that we developed seems to be having a detrimental effect in everything that we do in life, to which it is known in Sanskrit as ahamkara. Now, this particular ego is what that develops our emotions, develops our desires and never-ending wants and needs that we keep changing every single day. We are not happy with what we have, but we always keep searching for something out there which, needless do I need to say, doesn't exist at all. Now, the next set of principles constitutes of 5 organs of action. These 5 organs are known as our eyes, our feet, our mouth, and our reproductive system and our excretory system. Now, these 5 particular organs of action make us do things on a monotonous way without having a regard for the likes, the dislikes, and more importantly, the pair of opposites as quoted in the Bhagavad Gita. And now we also have the 5 subtle properties of nature known as the sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, and we also have the other properties through which we can see them through our eyes, nose, ears, mouth, and so on. Now, these 5 organs which enables us to see all this and the receptions that we get through those sensory organs is the first thing that the Sankhya theory, the first thing that the Bhagavad Gita, and more importantly the entire ancient Indian philosophy asks us to overcome, because these sense organs control us and enable the mind to become corrupted. Because if you had seen in my yoga video, which you can see right here, I would have mentioned that the mind becomes weak due to these sense organs, because if these sense organs are not able to be satisfied, the mind gets a little jittery. So our first goal is not to control the mind, but to control our sense organs. If we are able to control that, we would automatically control the mind itself. And last but not least, there are 5 main properties that constitute the entire universe, namely air, sky, earth, water, and fire. These 5 properties is something that constitutes the entire universe, and in the Bhagavad Gita and in Sankhya theory itself, it asks you to go beyond these 5 properties and not be caught up in any one of these properties, because that would mean that you are bound. So here, throughout the Sankhya theory, throughout these 24 cosmic principles, the scientific explanation as to why we fall in the trap of nature and think that nature is the supreme and do not divert our attention towards the path of consciousness. And that is the reason why the Sankhya theory says, or rather questions, the existence of God on terms of the metaphysical truths. Now, as I said earlier, Sankhya does not question the existence of the Supreme, but just questions on the existence of the God that we seem to have created over the years. So I'm going to leave you with one question that I asked already twice in this video. If you believe in God, ask yourself, how can a God that is unchanging be the cause of an ever-changing universe? If you get an answer to that, then follow it. If it is too confusing, just I hope that you stick on to your old beliefs. And as I said again, this is a video that is just attempting you to make you think and nothing else. And that's a wrap for this particular episode. And as always, thank you for watching. And until the next episode, it is goodbye.